We also have time to speak to Ofer Bronchtein, a political advisor and president of the International Forum for Peace. Hello, Ofer. Thank you for speaking to us as well. Don't know if you were able to follow along with that conversation I just had with Noga, but we're also wondering, when we look at this situation, where do you think this is headed?
Good morning. Listen, it's going to head on the short term, it's going to head to a catastrophe. But let me be very clear. The Hamas is the main enemy of the Palestinian people. The Hamas is completely aware of the retaliation of Israel, is completely aware of the damages that the Palestinian people are going to be victim of. Innocent Palestinian people are going to die. It's going to be a humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza because Israel don't have a choice. They are going to enter militarily into Gaza, not only by air, to destroy everything that they can of Hamas infrastructure. So we have to be very clear. So Hamas is trying, the context of what's happening is in few levels. First of all, the Hamas would like very much Palestinians in the West Bank, the Hezbollah and the Israeli Arab to get involved as well and to join them. The Hamas want to derail what the Iranian want, any possibility for reconciliation and a peace agreement with Saudi Arabia. The Hamas is aware of the division, deep division in the Israeli society in the last few months. And the Hamas believe that he will get point and support by showing to the Palestinian people and to the Muslim world that they are the one who are protecting the holy sites in Jerusalem. It's true that some Israeli extremists are fitting this kind of politics and provoking situations that are very difficult for the Palestinians. Extremists are feeding one each other on both sides. On a short term, it's going to be terrible. But we have to be aware the conflict between the Israeli and the Palestinian exists 75 years. 50 years ago, Israel was surprised, as this morning in Kippur War, and Israel was completely surprised by what's happening this morning. For 17 years, it's a conflict between the Hamas and the Israeli. Every few months, we have another round of violence between both sides. This time, it's going to be a terrific one. Israel is already, the victim in the Israeli side are huge. We're talking about dozens of dead, hundreds of wounded. The Hamas is still controlling 3 small villages and the military base in the south of Israel. I don't know if they kidnapped Israeli citizens or no. If they did, it's going to be terrible as well. It's no military solution to the conflict between the Israeli and the Palestinian. It's going to be violent, it's going to be terrible, but at the end of the day, they will have to come to a political agreement. And the role of the international community, and I'm very glad about the declaration of President Macron today, expressing his sorrow and support to the Israeli people. But it's time for the international community, and mainly Europe, I believe, and the moderate Arab country, to get involved, to put the right pressure on the Israeli and on the Palestinian to go back to the table of negotiation. And it's time to reinforce the moderate Palestinian who are represented by the Palestinian Authority.
But sorry, just to cut you off there, before we get to that point, Hamas, as you mentioned, is looking to bring in other groups into this conflict. Hezbollah is following along and watching closely. The Supreme Leader of Iran has supported the attacks. Do you think, what's the likelihood that this could become a wider conflict?
It can be. You know, conflict, you know how we start. We never know how we will end. It's why efforts has to be done on the international level, on the local level, by Arab countries to avoid the possibility that the Hezbollah in the north get involved, to reinforce the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, to avoid the Palestinians in the West Bank to get involved, and for the Israeli inside to do the best for the Israeli Arabs not to get involved, as they were a few years ago. So now it's an international involvement and pressure on all sides that is needed. The Lebanese people have to understand that if the Hezbollah get involved, the Lebanese people are going to suffer. they are going to pay the price, as now the Palestinians in Gaza are going to pay the price. It's in the interest of Iran, it's in the interest of the extremists to destabilize the region, to put fire into it via pyromans, but the people are going to suffer. And it's no military solution. In 1 week, in 2 weeks, in 1 month, we will have to go back to negotiation. We have to reinforce the moderate on both sides.
Right. Negotiations, that means we're going to see concessions. What sort of concessions do you think we could envision? Hamas and Hezbollah have each pointed to that they're angry about Arab countries normalizing ties with Israel. Do you think that could be something that might be influenced in the future if there are talks that lead out of this conflict?
Listen, they represent a very small minority in the Arab world. The Moroccans are very happy that they have a relationship with Israel now. Most of the Arab countries, even if it's a cold peace like Egypt or Jordan and the Emirates and the other ones who joined the Abraham Accord, are very satisfied by this agreement. It's true that the Palestinians should not be left aside. The Palestinians should not be forgotten in this process of reconciliation of a new Middle East. But at the same time, Hezbollah and Hamas have to understand the Arab world don't want war. The Arab and the Muslim world don't want escalation. They want it. And if it will happen, the Lebanese people are going to suffer. The Palestinian people will suffer. But in the end of the day, the reconciliation process will continue. Maybe the answer to their violence, to the situation that we are into, it's more peace, it's more talk, it's more encounter, it's more negotiation. They want war. We have to give them peace.
But is either side capable of that? Is Hamas or this Israeli conservative government capable of de-escalation?
Listen, this Israeli government will have to understand that they have to take out the extremists that are part of it to bring as fast as possible the moderate. The Hamas has to understand that if he wants to stay in the Palestinian reality, he has to be only a political power and not a military one. They were a political power 17 years ago. They won legislative election. They should stay as a political. They are not my cup of tea, but they should. I can completely understand if there will be only a political dimension in the Palestinian state. In no way a military terrorist one. And again, I think that the Arab moderate country, the European and the international community have a role to play. They have to play it because the suffering of the Palestinian people in Gaza first, but I hope nowhere else, is going to be terrible. Let me give you some numbers. 70% of the young Palestinian, 70% of the Palestinian in Gaza are below 35 years old. 65% of them are unemployed. The average income of a Palestinian in Gaza is $1.5 a day. The income, the yearly average income for a Palestinian in Gaza is around $2,000, when in Israel it's $45,000. Israel just reopened the borders to Gaza to allow Palestinian workers from Gaza to come to work in Israel and to increase their level of life. So the Palestinians are going to derail this possibility as well. We have to help the Palestinians in Gaza to live in a decent way, to increase their income, to open the borders, to build a port, to build an airport as it was before, and it will be the solution. Poverty, the extremists are being fed by poverty and by ignorance. If we will fight poverty and ignorance, we will be able to fight the terrorists as well. I do believe that in every crisis, we have an opportunity. I hope that we will all seize the opportunity to go back into the peace track.
Ofer, thank you very much for your time. Ofer Bronchtein speaking to us, International Forum of Peace President. Thank you for speaking to France 24.